start streaming now. Okay. Sorry, just give me a moment, guys, in case you're tuning into the stream. I actually need to check if everything is working as expected. So yeah, if you want to give it the audience introduction, actually, while I'm just quickly setting things up.
Okay, sure. So I am idkman. Not Zoran to experiment. I just idkman here. Jota, rest in peace. On show, Kaigurani names. And yeah, so today I'm going to be lead of the deal party, and today I'm going to be giving an interview with my good friend Bodo here.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Jota. Obviously, that was a tragic accident. Daughter President Andre Silva as well. Yeah, good on memory. Okay. Without further ado, we'll get started. Okay. So, first question. Why do you think you're the one to lead the deal party?
That is an interesting question. I had the one to lead the deal party because my ideals are realistic. I believe that billionaires are being taxed. I'm already asked that billionaires are not being taxed. No, I believe that the infrastructure in the UK is declining. I believe that the average working class man in the UK is not having a fair deal. And so that's what I want to give them. I want to give them a good deal. I truly think that I'm the only candidate.
Right. So, related to British policy in general, I mean, obviously, it's in meltdown, right? I mean, there's so many party scandals. I mean, there's so many broken policies with Labour. What keeps you motivated that you think you can reach the top and become Prime Minister one day?
I mean, yeah, obviously, we're seeing Labour right now, how their government is bringing their policies, cutting benefits and just in general, like a lot of things that manifesto, they're not sticking to everything, right? And we saw the Tories here, they had 40 years in government and everything became worse. We had austerity, our public infrastructure completely collapsed, HS2 got completely cancelled, and just in general, you saw the life of the average working middle class person just get a lot worse, right? So,
yeah,
it seems, and also with the form getting popularity, it's like, it seems like a time where people are fed up with the centre, they're fed up with these traditionalist parties, just ruining everything. So, I feel like this is the time where we capitalize, and I agree with Paul was a great there. Even worse, the board leaders and employees, in my opinion, and I feel like the deal party should be capitalized over them. And I feel like I'm the only person who could make sure they do that and make sure we get a fair moment.
right.
So
you mentioned Labour. So Labour are actively drifting to the centre under Starmer, which is like a complete opposite of what they're doing under Corbyn, which is more drifting to the left. So you can expect a lot of left-wing supporters are like completely abandoned. So how would the deal party itself, and how would you position yourself to be something new and maybe a change for once, I guess?
Well, I don't think that would be the hard part, to be honest, because Labour's always been like this. You can say since 1997 Labour's been like this because they had the New Labour government under Blair and Brown, and that was like the start where they embraced the Udinvers. I think Thatcher said it herself. Her biggest achievement was getting her opponents to adopt her ideology of neoliberalism, So I feel like the Labour Party is longer than a day being neoliberal, and the Conservatives also, they're not changed from Thatcher's ideology, they probably go worse than back. So I feel like it won't be hard to unironically, get the attention of voters. We have to be similar to, the old Labour, like the old policies of the old Labour Party before they got overtaken by neoliberalism. So as in general, taxing the rich a lot, and making sure we nationalize everything, making sure there's a strong public sector, and have a society with very strong social safety nets. And that is my priority. And I feel like if we do that, then we're going to be seen as very different from Labour, Conservatives, like where the party is in the early.
Right. So you mentioned some broad goals, but can you give me any specific policies that would like change lives of millions, and maybe explain how you push it through the current system, maybe through Commons and Lords, maybe how they would react to it as well?
Sure. So one of the policies that I think my opponent has this policy, but I actually agree with him. So kudos to him on that. Is centralized banking. So I feel like banking is something, for example, that it's not necessarily like it doesn't need to be run off a profit. So I do, and with the crisis past the year as well, I do really feel like if we had nationalized banks, then situations like the crisis strategy can be prevented, and I feel like everybody generally will just be getting a better deal, and everyone and the money will be going to the upper class. The money will stay where it belongs, which the working class and the middle class. It will be like concentrated just at the top if we had centralized banking. So as a specific policy, that's one of my big aims, to introduce centralized banking.
Okay, fair enough. So let's move on to Brexit. I mean, Brexit fractured everything. I mean, parties, communities, the economy in general. Where do you and where does your deal party stand in a post-Brexit Britain? Would you rejoin the EU? Would you rejoin the single market? And what would you do differently in this post-Brexit Britain?
See, that's a good question. I do feel like Brexit was a mistake, all things considered, but at the same time, I wouldn't be joining the EU. And I'll tell you why, bro. Personally, we spent so long trying to get out, trying to, get Brexit actually done, that I feel like rejoining the EU with such a short span will be, although I disagree with that affair, I don't know it was ultimately what the British people voted for, and I would to respect that for at least the lower. But in general, the EU is also very unstable, with like Trump obviously being president of the USA. You have the risk of Republicans, even if the Democrats went away, you have the risk of Republicans all being there, always playing tariffs on the EU. So yeah, I think the EU is it's not an ideal place to rejoin in right now, not in this political climate. So while I was still weak in the EU, I would still try to maintain good public relations with there, and I will work on doing some trade deals with them if I do get elected. So my priority is having strong, safe relations with Europe, but not necessarily vegan.
Right. You mentioned Trump. I mean, Trump's kind of sort of grifter, and like he can relate to Farage in that kind of way. So do you think that Trump and Farage are maybe the other people who are also kind of grifting in a sense? Do you think that is wrecking the country? And how would you battle that to break the cycle of this grifting constantly and the far right, I guess, depend?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing with the Bible, right, isn't it? It's like, it's the populace, right? And populism often has great results. We saw in America that Trump succeeded a lot with his populist narrative over the Democrats, who obviously not such a populist party. And you see in the polls as well of the 2020 election polls that Reform had really, even in like the local council elections, Reform had a landslide, didn't they? So it's just populism. And people are fed up of the center, so they see these populist policies and like promising lots of grandeur, and they think, oh, I want to vote for it, I want something different. But we're on the narrative, we're obviously, I'll admit it, we're a populist party as well. But we're not right-wing populism, we're left-wing populism. And I often believe that that's the better form of populism, because we actually do care about the average British man, the average working class person. And we do want to make life fair for them. So I feel like by sticking to our narrative and by advertising it better than they do, I will credit the far right and one thing, and especially Trump. He used he used social media a lot to his advantage. A lot of his campaign was on social media, and that's how you appeal to young voters particularly. We also saw it with Zohan Ardani's campaign in NYC for NYC mayor. he also used socialism. I keep saying socialism, but he also used social media a lot. He obviously talked to the people in NYC in real life. He did that marathon walk. So this respect him, and it's obviously a style of campaigning that works. And I feel like if we adopt that style of campaigning, then we will be able to fight and he will beat the populist sides.
Right. So you mentioned the populist left. You probably heard about Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn announcing plans to co-found a new left-wing party, maybe a bit socialist, a bit like our party, maybe on the status quo. How do you respond to this challenge from them? Do you want to collaborate with them, or do you want to kind of like compete against them, but like also risk vote splitting in a sense?
Yes, so it's very interesting. It's like I have all respect for Jeremy Corbyn. Zalsa Paul, I haven't heard of her that much, but she seems like a very strong figure. She seems like a very strong figure for the left nowadays. So with this party, it's like, the new party, they're gonna take a while to integrate. So I would I would take it. I would give them some time to see what I would do regarding their party, and I don't take it as a challenge. I take it as like, we all have these similar goals. We all want, like, as elect populist parties, even like the Greens or the Polanski wins. I feel like we all want a better version, and we all feel like left-wing policy is the way to do that. So we all have an agreement about that. So I definitely don't want us tripping over each other. So I don't know. We'll reevaluate. We'll see. Well, next couple of years, 2020 has a long way away, so we will reevaluate. But ideally, I look forward to working with them, hopefully forming a merger, or just working with them tactically in the election. That's my ideal. That's the ideal scenario. Yeah.
So a poll from Find Out Now suggests that the Corbyn Sultana party could attract 10% of the vote, which beats the Green Party, and they're actively pulling support from Labour and the Greens. Do you think that the Deal Party might help the progressive influence, or does it mean that it's going to fragment the vote even more and maybe influence a reform supermajority? And what would your strategy be to avoid voter fragmentation?
See, I feel like people say it's pushing votes on Labour, but I feel like most of the people, they're not going to vote in the first place. And I already mentioned this, but just drawing back to Zoran Milberni's campaign in NYC, he brought a completely new, different voter base. They were like, I don't know if you saw, it was like young voters who were the majority of voters. It was like they mainly had the highest percentage of the votes, and that was something really interesting, and I feel like that's how the populist left in general wins. We have to tap into this new version demographic that doesn't want to book the center, is a bit icky on the right way, and actually you'll see what's changed, because what the left strong with for now, and I see the left was like the variety of like liberal parties like Labour and Liberal Democrats, even the Democrats in like USA. What they struggled with is actually getting the youth vote and getting the average British man vote, or average like American man vote. And I feel like if we can tap into those demographics, that we can beat the polls, despite what the polls say, that we can actually pull out and get a result that is not before supermajority. So yeah, so I aim to tap into this demographic and hopefully come out successful.
So you mentioned the youth vote. How would you maybe use the online landscape, like maybe memes, activism, online movements, to like translate to real power? Do you think you could like captivate it like Zoran Mamdani, and what would your plan be to do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I've said it a lot, but it is impressive balls that Donny did, and I feel like to truly win the youth vote, you do have to like actually talk to them. You have to make policies that appeal to them, because it's a thing where establishment parties neglect the youth vote. They care about more else. More people concentrate, in the middle ages, conservatives and the right care about like the pensioners and anything. So I put it with the left, we try to appear society as appealing to everyone. Like we want this, because I do truly believe the left wants the best for society. So I feel like if we approach the youth honestly and with irrational means, I think maybe, I don't know. I don't want to. I feel the comment is just quite a serious one, and I don't be that memes. Maybe memes about a pro second, but in general, it's just talking to these voters that's the main like obstacle. And we'll get more sad, then I feel like we'll get the youth for no problem.
Okay,
So yeah.
fair enough. So from me personally knowing you, you love the word change. So what's a really radical idea that you really want to change in the UK right now? Just apart from, I know you mentioned centralized banking. I know it's a very similar question, but what's what's your most radical idea like you think you can push through in the UK right now?
I mean, the obvious one is taxing the wealthy, isn't it? If I know you mentioned centralized banking, but in general, like Reform, Labour, Tories, Liberal Democrats, we know a political landscape where almost no party actually wants to tax the wealthy, or no party was campaign mainly on taxing the wealthy. But that's what my campaign is going to be made here, because I believe that the wealthy for a long time has stolen a lot of money. I wouldn't say stole, actually, they kept a lot of money to themselves, and that's made the average working class man suffer. Now, I don't want to completely get rid of the wealthy. People like label me socialist and anything, but I do think that I do believe in a meritocratic system where, like, people earn their money and the hardest workers get the best money, but that's not necessarily what we're seeing right now. And I feel like to see that, we have to tax the wealthy and invest that into infrastructure in the public sector so that everybody in life gets a fair opportunity. The hardest workers are also the most wealthy. I feel like that's the most fair system. And I feel like I feel like the Deal Party and me in general is the Deal Party and the me will be the only force that's winning the campaign mainly of that.
Right. So last question. So let's say someone watching this interview is kind of on the fence about voting Deal Party. Maybe they want to vote Green. Maybe they want to still vote Labour. Maybe they want to vote for that new Corbyn Sultana party. So talk to them directly. Why should they vote for you, and why should they vote for your Deal Party?
Yeah, I mean, Labour voters who are like, you've been new to Labour for so long, or like, that you've been local so long, you don't want to vote for a different party just because it's like, Labour's maybe about your best fit. But look, I feel like to appeal to those voters, we just have to be completely honest with them. We have to make sure we have to just stick to we just have to, we can't force going to do anything, but if we stick to our policies, stick to our guns, and to people who agree, and it's like, we had similar policies. I already mentioned it could work something out there, but yeah, I think it's about taking the what we have to offer, spreading that as much as we can possible, talking to the average neighborhood, the average, totally not even the average Reform voter. Ideally, if we can flip A based on the policy, because we're going to go on this course, or I'm going to go on this course, and I believe as leader of the Tea Party, I can click anyone, no matter how to the left or to the right they are. So it's just about being honest and getting the word out there. But
All right, fair enough. Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you for all of that information. I think you presented yourself well there. So, to anyone watching the broadcast, I think the debate will be happening soon. I think that was a good showing from idkman here. We're looking forward to hearing from JHL as well. But yeah, I mean, thank you very much. All right, see you later, guys.